They all opened envelopes with six-figure checks. Mine was blank. My mother said, "Guess you weren't really family." Then the real executor showed up, and what he revealed shattered everything they'd stolen. I walked into that lawyer's office in a tucked-in button-down and black slacks, like it was a funeral all over again. Maybe that was my mistake, showing up expecting something real. Closure, at least. Mitchell was already there, loafers off, feet up on the coffee table like he owned the place. My brother Darren leaned against the wall with a champagne flute in hand. Aunt Renee was laughing with a paralegal like they were at some overpriced brunch spot, not sitting down to read a dead man's will. I nodded a quiet hello. Didn't sit. My eyes scanned the room. There was no framed photo of Grandpa, no flowers, just 3 envelopes on the table. The lawyer cleared his throat. These were left per Mr. Warren's instructions. Sealed. No formal reading. He slid the envelopes across the table. Darren and Mitchell tore theirs open like kids on Christmas morning. I took mine and felt something tighten in my chest. Mitchell hooped, 150 grand. Straight cash, baby. Darren laughed and held his up. Same. Guess we're the chosen ones. They clinked glasses while Aunt Renee smiled like she'd just won bingo night. I cracked the seal on mine. 1 sheet of paper, blank. Nothing written. No signature. No letter, just empty. What the heck is this? I held it up. Is this a joke? The lawyer adjusted his glasses. Yours was rescinded prior to final filing. Rescinded. My voice cracked. He cut me out. My mother, silent till then, crossed her arms. Maybe he thought you didn't need it. Just like that. No eye contact. No explanation. Mitchell snorted. Guess Grandpa saw through the act. I didn't answer. Couldn't. My jaw locked so tight I thought I'd snap a tooth. The room buzzed with fake celebration. Pop a champagne cork hit the ceiling. Darren laughed like it was a game show. I just stood there, paper in hand, heart pounding like it wanted out of my chest. They were celebrating, toasting over my erasure. Not just the money that I could have stomached. It was how easy it was for them to shut me out, like I never mattered. I dropped the blank page on the floor, turned, and walked out. No goodbye, no scene. Just my hands shaking in a rage in my gut that hadn't even started to burn yet. I didn't drive home that day, just kept walking until my feet blistered. I ended up crashing on a buddy's couch over in East Rutherford. 2 weeks later, I was renting a 100-square-foot box above a diner kitchen for $400 a month. Utilities not included. The ceiling was low enough to punch. No stove, 1 busted window. The AC was duct taped to stay in the wall, and the radiator made this god-awful hissing sound every night around 2 a.m. I got a job fixing commercial kitchen gear for this appliance repair guy who didn't ask questions and paid in cash. Nights and graveyard shifts, mostly. One night, I'm unclogging a grease trap in the back of a bowling alley. Next, I'm rewiring a walk-in freezer behind a strip mall, Wendy's. 6 months of that, no holidays, no calls. And every night when I finally dropped onto that thin mattress on the floor, I'd hear Grandpa's voice in my head. Not something he said once, just the way he talked. Straightforward, no bull. The man looked you in the eye when he told you the truth, and it never matched what they claimed. So, I started digging. I went online, pulled every probate record I could get my hands on, filed information requests, visited the courthouse in Newark like it was a part-time job. There was no sign of the will I knew he drafted, the one he said he'd been working on 6 months before he died, the one he asked me to read over for typos. Gone, like it never existed. I stopped sleeping, started snapping at coworkers, burned myself on a deep fryer coil and didn't even notice until I smelled the skin. Then one Monday morning, sun barely up, I was eating scrambled eggs in a plastic bowl. Same as every morning. Someone knocked. I opened the door, shirtless, blurry-eyed, thinking it was the guy downstairs complaining about the floorboards again. But it was a man in a tailored suit holding a leather briefcase. Mr. Warren. I didn't answer. He reached into his inside pocket, pulled out a thin wallet, flashed a card. John Delaney, legal representative from your grandfather's estate, the real one. He explained he was part of a private legal firm that handled trust protections and fraud recovery cases. I blinked. What the heck are you talking about? He opened the briefcase right there in the hallway and handed me 2 plastic sleeves, each holding a set of documents. This, he said, tapping the first one, is what your family submitted to probate. Forged, unofficial, signed by a notary who died 2 years before it was dated. I stared at it, my stomach already churning. And this, he pointed to the second one, is the legally filed, court-sealed version. Your grandfather submitted it to a protected records process 10 weeks before his death. It was time-triggered to release this past weekend. That's why I'm here. I stepped back into the room without saying a word. He followed. I didn't offer him a seat. I just stood there holding the files. You're telling me they forged his will? Yes, and passed it off as legitimate. Unfortunately, that's more common than people think, especially when estates are substantial. How long have you had this? I asked. Since Friday. I spent the weekend verifying everything before reaching out. Your name is all over the real version, Mr. Warren. I sat down on the mattress. Why didn't the court see this earlier? I asked. It was under seal, filed directly through a private executive trust process. It required biometric confirmation after a 6-month window. Your grandfather was extremely thorough. I laughed. One short, bitter breath. That was him. All right. Never left a screw loose. Why would they go that far? I muttered. John zipped his briefcase shut. Because they thought they'd get away with it. Most people don't question it. But you did. I stood. My knees cracked. The heat from the diner kitchen below had started to rise. All right then, I said. Let's take this to the end. John didn't waste time. We sat at this scratched-up folding table in my shoebox apartment, and he laid everything out like a damn prosecutor building a case. First page. The fake will sign March 12th, he said, tapping it. Notary on this line. You're kidding, nope. She died in a hospice in Tampa. The signature is lifted from DMV documents. Sloppy work. The date doesn't even match the filing stamp. He flipped to another sheet. And here your grandfather's signature, traced from a car title, doesn't even curve the same way under pressure. I leaned back, heart pounding. John kept going. This wasn't just casual forgery. It was coordinated. They created a paper trail to match the fake will, filed early to throw off the timeline. It worked temporarily. I pointed to a section near the bottom. So, what's that, Klaus? He smiled like a man who'd been waiting to talk about it. The part they didn't know existed. Your grandfather filed a duplicate sealed under his trust protection. Triggered for release only after 6 months of inactivity on the fake. In the moment no one updated the probate registry, it released to me. I stared at him. So he knew they'd try something. Looks that way. John opened a separate folder, clean and crisp, with a blue wax seal across the top page. My name was there, clear as day. You were never removed, he said. In the real will, you receive 42% of the estate, not just cash, the controlling interest in Warren Tools and Holdings. I blinked. The company was liquidated. They sold everything off. He slid over another file. Not exactly. They claimed liquidation. What they did was transfer all the assets to a shell. Corporation 1 Darren registered in Delaware 3 days after your grandfather's funeral. Paperwork says sold for debt reconciliation, but there's no ledger. It was fake. They moved the company without triggering audits. I sat there, jaw tight, eyes locked. On the page, everything down to the office chairs was passed off as distressed assets. John continued, but the manufacturing rights, patents, and core operations never left New Jersey. They just changed the signs. I laughed, bitter and low. They knew what they were doing. Oh, they planned it well, John said, but they got greedy. When they forged the will, they left traceable gaps, missing filings, notarizations out of order, and the big one, the notary's death certificate. That alone can bury a case. He handed me a flash drive. Digital copies of all fraud evidence. Originals stay with me. I'm preparing for court filings, but I needed to walk you through it first. I stared at that flash drive like it was radioactive. Why not go to the police already? I asked. We will, but probate first. Your legal position has to be reinstated before we press charges. Right now, you're a bystander. In 10 days you'll be the trustee. That word hit hard. Trustee, like it was supposed to be me all along. And my mother? I asked, not even sure I wanted to know. She's listed as a non-beneficiary witness in the fake will. That alone disqualifies her. But she also co-signed asset transfers under false statements. That's felony territory. I rubbed my eyes. So, this wasn't just betrayal. It was organized theft. John nodded, with paperwork to match. I stood up and walked to the cracked window. Below, some guy was yelling at the diner cook about eggs. Do you think they'll see it coming? I asked. He zipped his briefcase. No, they think it's over. I turned back to him. My hands weren't shaking anymore. Then, let's prove it's not. John stood by the door, phone in one hand, legal envelope in the other. I'm filing the notifications today, he said. Every party named. Certified copies. They'll get them before noon tomorrow. I just nodded. He handed me a duplicate set. Keep these. Once it's official, don't answer anything. Not texts, not calls. You're not required to explain yourself. By 10 the next morning my phone lit up like a fire alarm. 11 missed calls in under an hour. All from Mitchell. The voicemails came in one after another. First, you think this makes you some kind of hero. Second, we're family. Man, what are you doing? By the 6th one, he was crying. Please call me back. Just talk to me. I'll explain everything. 7th. Pure rage. You're a liar. You think a piece of paper changes anything. You were never part of this. By the 11th he sounded like a toddler caught in a lie. I didn't know what they were doing. Okay, I just signed what they told me. I didn't want to lose everything. Then silence. I didn't call back. Around for that afternoon, someone buzzed my apartment door. I checked the camera. My mother, pearl earrings, navy blazer, like she was headed to a charity luncheon instead of her son's rundown stairwell. She didn't knock, just stood there and spoke into the door. We're still family. Elijah, you don't have to do this. I didn't open it. She waited 2 full minutes, then walked off without another word. Later that night, Renee sent a novel-length text. The first few lines were fake calm, trying to sound reasonable. Then the mask cracked. You need to think long and hard before blowing up everything your grandfather built. Don't do anything you'll regret. I stared at that one for a long time. Then I put the phone down, face down on the table. I didn't respond. John called an hour later to hear from them. They're panicking. Good. That means the system's working. The next morning, I met him at a coffee shop 2 blocks from the courthouse. He slid a folder across the table. Warren Tools is officially frozen, he said. They can't move a dime until the court reviews the holdings. The family trust halted. No more asset transfers. No more false expenses. I flipped through the paperwork, my fingers still greasy from the toaster I had fixed on the way over. He pointed to the last page. And that opens the official investigation. Forgery, misappropriation, tax fraud. The court approved a special examiner this morning. It hit me harder than I expected. Not joy, not pride. Just this weight sliding off my chest, like I could breathe again for the first time since the day I walked out of that lawyer's office holding a blank page. You sure they don't have any more surprises? I asked. If they do, John said, they're about to wish they didn't. I laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was finally real. 2 days later, John called me while I was elbow deep in a busted Hobart slicer behind a strip mall deli. Got something, he said. Meet me at Jersey Federal on Washington Avenue. Private vault access. I didn't ask questions, just wiped my hands on a rag, grabbed my jacket and left the job half done. By the time I got there, he was already waiting with a bank manager and a key in his hand. Your grandfather opened this box 10 years ago, John said. Only access was under a trustee clause with biometric verification. Inside that little steel coffin was a leather-bound binder, a white envelope sealed in wax, and a black flash drive tucked into a zip pouch. No jewelry, no coins, no bonds, just words. John handed me the letter first. It was addressed in Grandpa's handwriting. My name in all caps. No Elijah, just Eel, the way he used to call me when I was a kid, handing him tools in the garage. I cracked the seal. If you're reading this, it means what I suspected came true. You always saw them for what they were, even when I couldn't. I knew they'd come for what I built. That's why I left it to you. Not because of blood, because of backbone. My throat tightened. I had to stop halfway down just to breathe. They'll lie. They'll pretend. Don't waste time trying to win them back. Use the tools I gave you. Finish what I started. Beneath that was his signature. Not traced. Not typed. Real. Ink smeared slightly at the end. His old man trembled. John didn't speak. Just handed me the flash drive. Next we walked into a private cubicle with a laptop the bank provided. No Wi-Fi, no chance of anything getting intercepted. The first audio file started with a familiar voice. My brother Darren. I'm telling you, we just copy the damn signature. He doesn't even check the dates anymore. A rustle. Then Mitchell's voice. What if the notary finds out? She's dead. She died last year. That's the point. The audio kept rolling. Darren again. And if we can make him seem off, early dementia, forgetfulness, we can challenge any documents later. Judges eat that stuff up. Trust me, I know. My jaw locked so tight I thought I'd snap a molar. John clicked open another folder. Emails. Dozens of them. Chains between my brother Mitchell and Darren. PDF templates for notary. Shell account screenshots. Hidden wire transfers. Coordinated dates for inventory liquidation that never actually happened. Each file a nail in their coffin. Each subject line screaming guilt. One from Darren to my mother. We just need 6 months after that. Elle can't touch a thing. She replied with a thumbs up emoji. No words, just that. John sat back. This isn't just probate fraud. This is criminal conspiracy, forgery, fraudulent conveyance, misuse of legal instruments. The DA is going to have a buffet. I stared at the screen, heat crawling up the back of my neck. They hadn't just cut me out. They'd planned every move like a damn bank robbery. Smiled in my face while building an escape hatch with my inheritance inside. I closed the laptop slowly. File it. I already am, John said, filing criminal motions this afternoon. By next week, every agency from tax auditors to elder fraud investigators will have a copy. I nodded. My fists were balled so tight my nails dug into my palms. But for the first time in a long time, it wasn't helplessness I felt. It was fire. I looked at the flash drive one more time, then pocketed it. They thought I'd walk away, I said. John stood. They should have prayed you did. The morning of the hearing, I showed up in a navy jacket I borrowed from the dry cleaner's lost and found rack. Still had someone else's name stitched inside, but it fit. Didn't matter. I wasn't there to impress. I was there to finish this. Probate court was quiet. Too quiet. Everything in that room echoed. Heels, coughs, paper, shuffling. John sat beside me at the claimantstable.com as a surgeon. A stack of binders in front of him. Sealed folders with color-coded tabs. And the flash drive in an evidence envelope. I scanned the benches. Mitchell sat on the far side, pale and glassy-eyed, wiping his nose every few seconds. His lawyer looked like he'd aged 10 years since John filed the motions. My mother sat 2 rows behind him. She wore black like it was a funeral, not a reckoning. Hair pinned back, pearls of course, but she never looked up, not once. Renee didn't show coward. A bailiff called the session to order. The judge entered. Old guy, white hair, glasses low on his nose, no smile, no time for theatrics. Docket 2087, he said. Dispute over the Warren estate. Petitioner Elijah Warren, represented by counsel. John stood, voice firm. Your Honor, we are here to present verified evidence of will forgery, fraudulent transfers, and criminal conspiracy among listed beneficiaries. Our filings include notarized expert reports, financial audits, and the original court-sealed testament from Mr. Harold Warren. The judge held up the sealed will. I reviewed this last night. Authentic, matches the protection filing from 10 months prior, submitted with biometric verification. He turned to the defense. Any objections? Mitchell's lawyer looked like he wanted to melt into the floor. His voice barely cleared his throat. No, Your Honor. The judge looked at my mother, Miss Warren. She didn't answer, didn't blink. No objection, her lawyer said. The judge tapped his pen twice. That was it. Original will is reinstated. Elijah Warren is declared successor trustee and majority shareholder in Warren Tools and Holdings per Mr. Harold Warren's directive. All fraudulent transfers are void. Probate is closed pending criminal proceedings. Done. I barely breathed. No cheers, no gavel bang, just silence and the weight of finality. We stood. John packed up the folders methodically, like he'd done it 100 times. Mitchell covered his face with both hands and started crying. Real sobs. Shoulders shaking. No one reached out. I walked past my mother on the way out. She didn't even look in my direction, just stared at the bench in front of her like maybe it would open up and swallow her whole. Outside, the air hit cold. Not winter cold, just clean. John stopped me on the courthouse steps. I held this back, he said. Wanted you to see it after the ruling. He handed me a folded piece of paper, yellowed at the edges. Grandpa's handwriting. I'd know it anywhere. For words. All caps E.L. Warren. Successor trustee. No signature. No letter. Just a title. I folded it once, slid it into my pocket, and looked out across the courthouse lawn. I didn't smile. I didn't say a word. I just nodded once and kept walking. By the end of that week, the fallout started. Mitchell's house hit the foreclosure listings first. Big white colonial in Ridgewood with a mortgage he couldn't fake anymore. Then came the car. BMW lease repossessed right out of his gym's parking lot. His Instagram went quiet after that. No more filtered selfies in front of fake business meetings. No more hustle quotes or poolside brand deals. Just a black square, like he thought that would make people forget. Next came Renee. She got the boot from both nonprofits she sat on, the kind that hold charity galas for clout and sip wine while talking about community engagement. Apparently, forged estate documents don't look great next to fundraising invites. State Bar pulled his license pending investigation. Malpractice, fraud, ethics violations. They stacked fast once John handed over the flash drive. He tried to argue at first, claimed he was pressured, that he didn't actually forge anything himself, but it didn't matter. The firm dropped him within 48 hours. And my mother, she sent one message. Just one. I hope you're satisfied. No apology, no explanation, not even her name at the end. Just that cold line, like she was spitting on the floor. I read it once, deleted it, and never answered. I didn't need to. Reporters started calling. News outlets dug into the court filings. Estate fraud always makes headlines when the dollar signs hit 6 figures. One of them caught me outside the courthouse the next week, stuck a mic in my face and asked, "How does it feel to win against your own family?" I didn't say a word. Distant cousins I hadn't heard from in years started texting, saying stuff like, "Hope you're doing okay," or "We always believed in you." Sure you did. I went quiet. No interviews, no press, no public gloating. Let them keep guessing what I'd do next. The truth was, they weren't scared of losing what they stole. They were scared I'd prove it was never theirs to begin with. And now that I had, there was nothing left for them to hide behind. I didn't tell anyone I was going. I just packed a bag, filled up the truck, and drove north, past the suburbs, past the gas stations and Dollar Generals. That's where the roads turned to gravel and the trees stopped looking decorative. 42 acres, pine wood and hickory, untouched since the day Grandpa fenced it off. I pulled through the rusted gate around 6 o'clock in the evening. Sun low, air thick with that damp, wild smell that city people forget exists. The cabin sat where it always had, tucked back against a ridge, 2 windows cracked, doors sagging on one hinge. It was exactly how I remembered it. Inside, everything was still, dust layered thick on the mantel, chairs, even the old clock that hadn't ticked in years. Boots by the back door, worn down to the heel. The table we'd sanded together when I was 13. I didn't clean, didn't sweep or open windows. I just walked straight to his recliner by the fireplace and dropped into it like my body already knew where to go. The cushion creaked under me, familiar, solid. I sat there in the silence for a long time, let it sink in, and then I looked up and saw it. The photo on the mantel behind a thick film of dust. Me at 8 years old, holding a wrench half my size, grinning like I'd just fixed the whole world. Grandpa stood behind me in the picture, hand on my shoulder. I wiped the frame clean with my sleeve, and that's when I broke. Not because of what they took. I didn't care about the money, the titles, the house, any of it. I cried because for 6 straight months, I almost believed him. Believed I didn't matter, that I was disposable, that I wasn't worth the ink on a will. And here I was, front and center on his mantle, like he'd been saving that reminder for this exact moment. After I pulled myself together, I walked to the back room, the one he always kept locked when I was a kid. Found the key in the same busted coffee can above the stove. Inside were shelves full of notebooks, black leather journals stacked top to bottom. I grabbed one off the middle shelf and opened it. His handwriting again. Neat, purposeful. Character isn't tested when things go right. It's when people circle you for the slaughter and you stay standing. Page after page. Notes about the business, about decisions he made, who he trusted, who he didn't. One entry hit harder than the rest. L's the only one who doesn't flinch. He's got the guts to stand alone. He just doesn't know it yet. I sat down on the wood floor and kept reading until it got too dark to see. Then I stood up, walked to the front door, and locked it behind me. I slept in the cabin that night. No heat, no phone. Just the sound of wind hitting the walls like waves. When I woke up, the world was still. No courtrooms, no voicemails, no lies hanging in the air. I never went back to the family house. Didn't drive by. Didn't even check if the sign was still out front. Mitchell texted once, "Can we just talk?" I left it unread. A week later, Renee sent a handwritten letter, fancy envelope, same gold initials she used to emboss on Christmas cards. I burned it in the fireplace without opening it. They expected me to fold, maybe show up to Thanksgiving with a forced smile or fight, drag them through another legal war just to prove I could. I didn't either. I walked away, not from Grandpa's legacy. I honored that. Every time I opened one of his journals or stepped onto the dirt road he built with his bare hands, I walked away from them, from the version of family that looks clean on the outside but rots from the inside out.